Hey, what is up guys, Tava here, and today I'm going to be attempting to shoot a cinematic video on this super crappy $30 action camera. So the next footage you see will be from this camera. Okay, so that sequence you just saw obviously doesn't look like it was shot on a super fancy camera because let's be honest, it wasn't. It's a $30 action camera. You can't really expect much good quality. But that being said, it's super fun to try and see how good of quality you can get out of a camera that's not meant to shoot very good quality. So if you look at the before and after footage from this camera, it's almost unrecognizable just because in the beginning it looks pretty horrible. So let's talk a little bit about this camera and the settings that I use to get these shots. Now this camera is called the Vantop Moment 3. I did a review on it a while back, but I gave it really bad ratings because, well, let's be honest, it's a bad camera. It doesn't shoot good quality, it's super pixelated, and it is only $30. It did originally cost $50 when I got this for review, but it is an only $30 action camera, so you can't really expect much from it. This little camera does technically shoot 4K, but the 4K looks horrible. It skips frames every other frame, so instead of 30 frames per second in 4K, it's like 15 frames per second, which is obviously unusable. It does have 2.7K, which is what I shot that sequence in. Honestly, the quality isn't really recognizable from the 4K or even 1080p mode. It's pretty much just the same sensor for all the shots. One more thing to mention is that I did use one piece of cheat gear in that sequence, which would be a phone gimbal just to stabilize this camera, because the camera doesn't have built-in stabilization, obviously, and you really don't want to watch a video sequence of this camera unstabilized. So that's the one piece of equipment that I use to integrate into this sequence to make it look better, but besides that, all the footage is directly from this $30 action camera. Also, all the audio has been replaced with sound design because the action camera's built-in microphone sounds like this, which obviously sounds pretty dang horrible. But with that said, let's get out of here and I'll show you how I fixed up this footage in post. Okay, so first in editing, once I imported all my footage, I started to line it up over a bed of music. I like to edit over music, especially if I'm not using the audio from the video clips, because it just makes it a lot easier to line up your clips based on a beat of the music. Once I had this all laid out, I needed to mess with the colors because this little action camera shoots way too contrasty and saturated and it just looks horrible. So I added an adjustment layer, placed it over all the footage, and went into my color settings to adjust some settings. So first in the color board, I changed the master saturation to -15%, and then in the exposure, I changed the shadows to 15%, the midtones to 10%, and the highlights to -25%, hoping that I can pull a little bit of detail from the shadows as well as the highlights. And surprisingly, I was able to get a little bit of detail back even with this cheap camera. So from here I decided to add a letterbox over my footage. I know it's kind of basic, but it does help to give that more cinematic look to footage. So once I added it, then I needed to finish my color grade, which I basically did by just testing out different LUTs I have, as well as changing different colors and tones, as well as brightness and exposure throughout the different shots. So I basically just tested every shot. I couldn't get it perfect because the footage is too bad to start with, but it did improve it significantly. And then once all the colors were done, I just went through again and added a bunch of sound design. I didn't do a ton because I knew there was going to be music placed over it, but it does add a significant layer of detail into the shot that you wouldn't have with just the music. So I think it adds a very valuable part. So with all this editing done, I'm going to show you a before and after clip of the footage completely untouched, no sound design, no color grading, and then after with all my effects done. So check this out. Despite the fact that that action camera has no changeable field of view, horrible video colors, horrible audio, and many other bad things about it, it is a very nice sized camera to be able to place in many different locations and honestly just get creative with. So there is an upside to all of the resolution things, and if you're able to get past it and get creative with the camera you have, you can get some pretty cool cinematic shots. I don't really want to clickbait this YouTube video and add surprising results at the end of the title, but I feel like it is true. You're able to get pretty surprising results from this camera if you edit it properly that you didn't think were even possible from a $30 action camera. So I don't know, maybe that is a good title choice. Anyway, that's it for today. If you found this video useful, helpful, interesting, anything like that, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button because it helps me out a lot. And I'll see you all next time.